Hello to all my Support Fibromyalgia friends. We are moving through the week. Welcome to our live broadcast. I'm Melissa Tolwer, the Executive Director of the Support Fibromyalgia Network, and I'm also a board certified functional medicine health coach. I thought I'd jump on here and just share some information on what the science says for fibromyalgia. I get emails and invitations from the NIH, so I subscribe to all the emails. So I just wanted to jump on and share an interesting email and kind of go through the process of maybe why there's so much more confusion out there and have an understanding as we build our relationships back up with our practitioners. Because I think a lot of the providers may get some heat for not understanding fibromyalgia or not taking the time, but I want to kind of dive into the logistics on why and potentially what more is going on. So if you're out there tuning in, please leave me a comment, say hello, leave an emoji, let us know where you're tuning in from, like and share these videos. Please definitely subscribe to our channels. Check out our website at supportfibro.org. We have a lot of stuff we are working on. Support the organization. This is all about you and the community of fibromyalgia. So please let other fibromyalgia warriors out there know that we exist and we are working hard to make the necessary changes the fibromyalgia community needs, and let them know, this is all about knowing that you are not alone out there. We are out here working really hard. I hope you enjoyed our video yesterday for the advocacy in action, fibromyalgia advocacy in action. Stay tuned. It was a great video with Crystal, Estella, and Juana. I appreciate the team so much. So go back and check out that video. Get updates on fibromyalgia advocacy. Get involved with fibromyalgia advocacy. There is a Google form that you can fill out if you're interested in being involved. I'm going to share my screen and kind of dive into this topic because I get these newsletters all the time. And, I always kind of sometimes delete because it's a lot of information that comes in from the NIH. I'm subscribed to a lot of the NIH houses just to see what's going on with different modalities, chronic pain, neurological conditions. If something does pop up with fibromyalgia, I want to start sharing with you sort of what's going on with all of this. So this is from an email and it pops up and opens it up. So this is the clinical digest and it's for health professionals, mind and body practices for fibromyalgia. So what does the science say? And this is the clinical one. So this is for health professionals that they're going to. They have a link you can see that's there for similar information for patients. But I kind of want to just bring it all together and understand maybe it's the dynamics of why there's so much confusion and then some takeaways of what you can do. And so nothing about this is saying that you shouldn't try these modalities because we know that multiple modalities on top of each other will provide some relief. Everyone's different towards the type of relief that you get from some of these complementary treatments. So I just want to make sure that you know that before I go into it, because we have this different perception. It's like mind body practices. And I don't know, like, I think it's maybe the dismissal that we get when we're trying to maybe talk to our providers or other people out there and they kind of dismiss us. So it's created this weird dynamic. But I definitely wanted to just break down exactly what it says on the NIH websites and why, again, this translation forward to the practitioners and health professionals is getting diminished, and why, again, there's so much confusion and it's like a back and forth and we need to change it. And it would be helpful if our public health agencies would get on board and understand what is happening and how they're contributing to the confusion. So if you actually read, and I'm taking a very literal interpretation of this, but this is what I'm assuming our health professionals are doing as well, because they get to read all this stuff. And so they're publishing systemic reviews and these trials. So these are practices that we're seeing with like Tai Chi, acupuncture, mindfulness, and biofeedback. It says it may help relieve some fibromyalgia symptoms, but there is insufficient evidence that any natural products can relieve fibromyalgia pain, with the possible exception of vitamin D supplementation. So take note of that. At least they're giving some shout outs to vitamin D, so which may reduce pain in people with fibromyalgia who have vitamin D deficiencies. But I'd like to note that this like language is so non-committal. So can you imagine being a health professional? You really want to help your patient, but this is like there's insufficient evidence. So it's it's back and forth, and they're not willing to commit to an answer. And I don't know if this is because there's a lack of investment in the type of research or the type of research that's being run. But this is where we're trying to build this bridge within our health professionals and our patient relationships. And we need to continue to build this bridge and understand what the information is coming from, like where they're learning from, and why it's so confusing. Because I know a lot of you out there have tried Tai Chi, mindfulness, and these things and have found some relief for it. Uh, and so you keep on doing it. And that's what we need to keep doing. What works for us may not be what works for someone else. So they put this information together. They link over to the diagnostic criteria from the American College of Rheumatology, which I've talked before is a whole other confusing ball of wax, because if you see some of the diagnosis criteria, just remember things to point out that the fast facts and what they manage with. This is from ACR, so American College of Rheumatology, with what they look at. Just again, pointing out that fibromyalgia is a common neurological health problem. So they're putting it into the neurological space, nervous system space. And so we have to all connect the dots. And this is where our public health agencies need to kind of come up and reevaluate. I know it's going to take a lot more work than what we originally thought for making these changes, because that's why some of this research comes in. But you can take a look at this. And again, they have a patient side, which isn't, I don't, it's very similar to this. So I'm not sure why I guess they have to break it up for health professionals versus patient side. So but you can go through this and see, like, take each topic, and it kind of briefly describes mindfulness meditation may provide short-term improvements in pain and quality of life in patients with fibromyalgia. However, the evidence is limited by a small number of studies with low methodological, I can't speak today, quality. And then they list some of the research that they've seen, so you can dive into that research if you're interested in knowing more, and what the conclusions are. And some of this is gated information, some of this is open to the public. But what I always like to do is just quickly scan to the conclusion part to see where we're going on, analyze how many participants they actually examined, and was it really directed at fibromyalgia. There's a lot of overlapping studies with comparisons of chronic pain. So sometimes they compare things with like chronic back pain and fibromyalgia to see the differences, and they notice some insufficiencies when it comes to fibromyalgia that way. So I'm always kind of dissecting how they put together the research studies, and then they ask like safety. So when it comes to these complementary treatments, so it's just, you can scan some of these modalities here. They have biofeedback, which was interesting because I've always learned with biofeedback it's all about the breathing. So you can go through this guided imagery, Tai Chi, massage, and acupuncture. So they keep, again, it's this non committal thing. I'm just like, why do we do this to our health practitioners, especially when it comes to treating patients and finding relief, because we know we need multi modalities when it comes to fibromyalgia. But I wanted to point out something interesting I saw, and this is where we have to like really dive into the research for massage. And it was very good actually to see that the 2020 review, 2020 update, but it's specifically pointing out it's myofascial release. So under the massage section, which is especially good to note in connection to what things like Dr. Lipton refers to. And if you are in the Portland area, please go see Jamie Lipton and his team. I think it's the Portland Myofascial Release Center. If you are in Portland, or if you ever visit Portland, I highly recommend making an appointment for myofascial release from Jamie Lipton. He is the guru for that. He's trained in John Barnes's technique. So that's what you're looking for when you myofascial release. So I thought it was interesting that they put that specifically under massage. But I want to make sure that you can differentiate that, because I've had great relief from myofascial release. But see, that's where we're like diving in. And I mean, the last sort of research they had done before a 2020 update was in 2014. So you're going to see the different dates. You're going to see when this research was done, and you can dive into some of the understanding of like where they get this stuff from. So even with acupuncture, I guess they finally, I'm seeing this is good. There's a 2020 update. So it's good to go back in this to actually see the relief of the scores. They do the fibromyalgia impact questionnaire. So they're actually following up in a different way, which we don't see a lot in the past. So you can see they referenced the 2013 study review of these participants, and then they're updating it. So, I have to go through some of this because it's all in the language and what do they actually find. And then of course, like I said, each of us are going to be different. So if you find relief in acupuncture, more power to you. But you can understand if a healthcare professional is reading this, how confusing it was is going to be, because right here too under acupuncture, the strength of evidence was considered moderate. So the updated review also found no effective acupuncture versus sham acupuncture, and I don't know what sham acupuncture is, on pain in the short term or intermediate term. The strength of evidence was considered low. So I think we got to give our providers a little bit of break here, because you read this and you feel so discouraged. So it's like, what is going on? We definitely need to find more concentrated evidence, or just clarify, like just be upfront with everyone. You're going to need to try a lot of modalities. You're going to need to work with your healthcare professionals to try a lot of modalities, uh, because this is the thing. They're trying one modality at a time, right? But if you were to do maybe acupuncture with some biofeedback or mindfulness on top of each other, then what does that look like to a fibromyalgia patient altogether? So you're talking about finding the right movement, finding the right nutrition, and then with acupuncture or another modality together. So that in encompassing a whole lifestyle behavior change, what does that then look like for fibromyalgia? So this is the difficulties when they're running these studies, because they're looking at one modality at a time. I I don't know. You have to dive into the details of how they're differentiating from patient to patient, who they're comparing. And like I said, I don't know what sham acupuncture is, so have to go look at reading that, what that means, because acupuncture we know differs from even acupuncturist to acupuncturist. I've had different forms of it with different types of needles. There are thinner needles you can use. Some people use more traditional thicker needles in the process. I've had acupuncturists that put more needles on the body, and then I've come across other acupuncturists that just have used only 3 needles on me, and I found some much more relief that way. So I think we really need to understand how confusing this can be, because there's a lot of ways to go with this. And I even brought this up with the video with swing therapeutics and understanding digital therapeutics, because now we're bringing it into the home in a smartphone device. It's accessible. You can use it when you need it, and you don't have to leave your house to get the therapy. When it comes to some of the digital therapeutics. And that really has not necessarily been fully measured before. So when you add all these together, what does that look like? Here's the hydrotherapy. And I know that we can have improvements. So I thought I'd just go over that with you, and just sort of as we start to build bridges together with our healthcare providers, and understanding what it's going to take, we have to understand what information they've been given and what information they haven't been given, and the gaps of the information that the public health agencies are distributing on fibromyalgia. We need an upgrade from public health on all these websites, an upgrade of an understanding the descriptions, what works, what are these providers going to have to do when a fibromyalgia patient walks into their office, and how they're going to, because it's like troubleshooting. I think there was an NIH study that there's 186 different modalities that providers work on with fibromyalgia patients. 186 different modalities. I don't know how anyone, as even a patient or a provider, could go through that process and streamline that process to then create an effective treatment protocol. It's so much trial and error. But I definitely want people to know what's behind some of the sort of, it's not necessarily misinformation, because they're telling us the truth, but the translation of it, of how it's reaching providers and patients, and all this confusion it's created. Because we're really working here at Support Fibromyalgia Network to build that bridge of a connection. That's also why I became a health coach, was to connect that bridge between provider and patient relationships, because I am a patient advocate, but I'm also a healthcare a health coach. So I've become an allied professional, and we're just closing in, creating different systems that we can all collaborate and build together and build that community around it, because we don't want providers to reach burnout. We want them to be excited to work with fibromyalgia patients. So when they walk into the room, you're seeing a new provider, they're like, okay, so we know that this fibromyalgia can be challenging. There's a lot going on, but challenge accepted. And that's what I look forward to do with the providers and the training that we're organizing with Project Echo. But I just wanted to share that with everyone. Hi, Donna. So great. Thank you for tuning in. I am working really hard to do these videos more frequently and coming up with different content. So I'm going to keep it at various lengths. Sometimes it'll be longer, sometimes it'll be a little shorter. But thank you, everyone. Again, please let people know about the Support Fibromyalgia Network and all our programs that we are working on: patient education, advocacy, Project Echo with medical education, research and action, bringing you connected to the research that's out there. Subscribe to our channels, like our content, let all the fibromyalgia warriors out there know we have their back. They are not alone. So I will be checking in with you hopefully tomorrow. Let's keep this up. I'm going to challenge myself to do more videos. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. See you later.